Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live video. Today it is Tuesday the 3rd of October 2023 and my name is CareyHolzman and thank you guys so much for joining us. A quick shout out to both Oystein and Frankie B, who just prior to the show starting have made some very generous contributions with Amazon gift cards just in time for Amazon Prime Day on October 10th and 11th. Thank you both so much. A super shout out to our good friend Oystein and our good friend Frankie B. And of course, we can't forget, never can we forget, our good friend Buster, also known as Peter Laycock in the chat room, who joins us all the way from Scotland. Oystein joins us all the way from Norway. Frankie B, I don't know where Frankie B is, New York, I think. But you guys rock. Thank you so much. I am standing on this side of the bench because what's behind me is a very large workstation slash server. And if I stood back here and said, hello, everybody, and welcome into the latest, I would feel like Wilson from Home Improvement. Is that a dated reference? Does that make me feel old? This is shipping damage, and this is minor compared to what it did look like. I'll explain how this happened. There's a few YouTube channels I've talked about that I promote, that I encourage, that I watch myself. One of those YouTube channels is called Serve the Home. And its host, Patrick, mentioned that they were moving studios. And they're based out of Texas. So I didn't think anything of it. But then I saw, because I follow him on Twitter. By the way, if you guys aren't following people on Twitter, there's a lot of information conveyed there that perhaps you're not finding on their regular media sites, because it may be something that's not, worthy of a video, or it may be buried in a video somewhere where it was mentioned, but you didn't watch that part. So you can get a lot of little details about people you want to follow by following them on Twitter. Now, or X, or whatever it's called today. I did not know that Patrick was moving to Arizona, and in such moving the studio to Arizona. And Arizona is a pretty big state. There's Tucson on the south end. There's Flagstaff at the north end. There's Prescott when you go sort of, is that west? Payson if you go east. So what were the odds that he was moving right down the street from where I am? We're going to turn this into Creator City. It's all starting with me and Patrick. Anyway, the really reason I know this is because he posted on his Twitter, on his personal Twitter, that he took a picture of this computer with the glass panel on it and the video card vertical, when the video card's supposed to be this way. And he said, this is how it arrived from UPS. Now, he's moving an entire studio and his entire home from Texas to Arizona, and as such, as you can imagine, that's a lot of stuff to pack up and bring. If it's hard enough to move a house, to move your belongings, furniture, everything, your clothes, just imagine doing that in addition to moving an entire studio. So they can't obviously pack everything in the car and take it all themselves. Things have to get either delivered from a moving company or moving pods, or however you want to do that. Now, what's behind me is a level of computer I haven't worked on in a long time, because primarily I work with residents and small businesses. The problem with working with residential and small business is the amount of money you can make. Residential's profoundly stingy with their money, mostly, and pretty fickle with regards to how loyal they can be. And they don't call very often. Small businesses, that's a real nice, comfortable place for me, being my only employee. But I do miss corporate America sometimes, because corporate America, they'll have machines like this by the dozens. And when they break, they need to be fixed immediately. Now, a machine like this, to a casual glance, this might look like any other desktop computer. But when you really look at it, what you're going to find is an AMD EPYC processor here that's a server processor. That's worth a couple of grand. You've got a motherboard that is very big. This might look like a like a standard EATX board, but this is actually bigger than that. These RAM modules, these are ECC, error correction RAM modules. They're called, and I never even heard of this RAM. It's called RDIMMs. It's been so long that I've been out of this level that this whole technology's passed me by. Even the socket that this ThreadRipper is in is an SP3 socket. I never even heard of it. So when you get into this corporate America stuff, it's all very familiar, right? We're still dealing with motherboard, RAM, processor, but it's slightly different and massively different on a price. I would gather that this is probably, and I'm going to just take a guess, $15,000 of computer. Give or take a few thousand one way or the other. Because the video card this had in here, oh my gosh, I think I need two hands. This video card, the RTX 3090, this was in here sort of like this. And I appreciate that Patrick didn't touch it. What happened was he posted this and I said, hey, you're in my hometown. You know, I do this for a living. I'd love to take a shot at fixing it for you. And, you know, look, these guys are quite capable. They don't need me to fix anything for them. But I thought, what the heck? Worst he could say is thanks, but no thanks. Or sometimes you just don't get any answer at all from some people. He responded back, yeah, sounds good. Really? Okay. So we direct messaged each other and made arrangements to meet up. And yeah, he left it. And I was going to bring it exactly as it was to show it to you, except that we were concerned that in moving it, that this big heavy graphics card was going to continue to bounce around in there and cause more damage. Now, there were two of these cards. This card, just to give you an idea of the kind of money we're talking about, this has 4 NVMe drives in it, and there are 2 of these. You know how much NVMe, right? Depending on the capacity of them. And they were installed. This motherboard, I don't know how many cores this thing has. It's incredible. It's all 16 PCIe Gen 4 by 16 slots, 7 of them. You're not going to see that on a home-based motherboard. It's got a lot of channels for I/O. It's got, I think, 10 gigabit networking card and maybe a dual 5 or something like that. This is all, once again, I just upgraded Studio B here to 2.5. So doing something with 10 is, you know, over my head. But this is all pretty standard as far as how it all goes together. So it gives some variety to the channel. It shows you guys, especially the home enthusiasts and hobbyists who think they know so much. You get into this level of stuff, it's a whole different world. And when you're dealing with a corporation that has several of these, they don't care primarily as far as what you're charging as a technician to get it up and running. At 15 to 20 grand a piece, and they've got dozens of them, when they go down, and they often go down because of their use, you know, they're on 24/7, cranking away, very rarely getting a break. So when they go down, it's pretty drastic. And because they're dependent upon so much, usually companies that use stuff like this, they're not going to nickel and dime you on the rate. You're going to come out because it's like being a fireman. There's a fire. You need to come out, put this fire out, and you need to do it now before the fire burns too much. So getting a job working in corporate America doing stuff like this, you can make pretty good money. In fact, even if you're self-employed and you specialize in working on equipment, servers and workstations in corporate America as a contractor, you could make really good money. Because as I mentioned, you know, if you're dropping 15, 20 grand on a machine and that machine goes down, paying a tech a few $100 to fix it, it's nothing. When you're dealing with a home consumer and you're going to charge them $100 or whatever to fix something, oh my gosh, you know, I got to take a mortgage out on the house is sometimes the reaction you get. Now, I just wanted to set this up because, and I'm going to grab the close-up camera and show you some of the damage close-up inside. But it appears this big heavy brick of a video card was bouncing around in here, and it knocked this I don't know what they call these expansion cards. There's Hyper M2 card. There were two of them. There used to be two of them. We couldn't even find this one. It wasn't until we lifted it up, put it in the back of the car, that I took the big glass panel off, and it was hidden back behind this area here. There was also some thumb screws that were rolling around, and what appears to be, and I don't know how well I can show this to you, but what used to be the end of a rivet that was probably holding this case together. So I suspect this case is probably not as tight fitting as it used to be, depending on how many of those rivets broke free. So as you can see, we've got 4 sticks of RAM here, 4 sticks of RAM here. These chips, they run very, very hot. It's my understanding, almost no way to cool these except water cooling. And that's what they've got in here. They've got a water-cooled solution for this AMD ThreadRipper. We've got the radiator, the fans up here, rear case fan here. And whoever built it did a good job building it, but what else would you expect from the folks over at Serve the Home? Also, if we turn it this way, we can see the power supply, which thankfully is behind a shroud, is trying to make a run for it. Turn this around like here. I would put this on the Lazy Susan, but it's so big, it just hangs off the edges. I'm going to say that's probably not fitting correctly. Now, how much damage is done? Is it possible? Let me pose a question to you. Is it possible the cards became unseated and all we have to do is reseat them and everything's going to work? Yes, it is possible. And I say that because when I look at the video card, there's no damage to it. No visible damage can be seen. We're worried about this socket being broken or cracked. And we're also worried about, let's spin this back around here. It's definitely my workout for the week. We also worry about whether or not these sockets have been damaged or cracked. And from a cursory glance, they look just fine. There is some damage down here. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick up that, but that is really not as bad as it seems. And I'm going to bring the close-up camera and I'm going to show you why. Thankfully, the way the CPU sockets, it's almost impossible to damage the CPU, and that's a very expensive CPU. And as far as these cards go, the network cards, I'm not too worried about them, but the things I'm not worried about, those are the things that were secured. The things I'm most worried about are the storage cards and the video card. And those are the only things that were dislodged. And you can see the screw is still holding this card in place, but it has come out of the socket. And, apparently it was dropped at least once. And it was dropped in such a way, with such force, that the card popped out of the socket and was trying to break free, if not for this screw. So that's why this card looks like this. This card was clearly in that top slot. Now, I don't see any damage to the top slot. And Asus, they do these steel reinforced PCIe slots. And I always thought, who needs that? But in this case, that might be what saved the socket, assuming there's no damage to the socket. So here's what I'm hoping. I am hoping that we can correct this and power it up, and it works beautifully. Am I delusionally optimistic? Sometimes it's almost like a feeling you get when you look at it. So initially, if I can bring up the Twitter page, Patrick took a picture of this and posted it on his Twitter, and I will show you the way I saw it. Let me go over here for a second. I also want to show you Serve the Home's web. They have a website, but they also have a YouTube page, and I strongly encourage you to check them out. Patrick over at Serve the Home has been an inspiration for some of the content we've done here, such as the Asus Flash Store 6 that we reviewed. I ordered that shortly after watching Patrick's review because I didn't even know such a thing existed. I missed all the marketing on that. Patrick's Tiny Mini Micro series with the Dell, Lenovo, and HP Mini PCs. That sort of introduced us to that concept and got us fueled on that. And yeah, I enjoy the content. I think you will too. Bear in mind, they also cover a lot of corporate stuff, which may or may not appeal to you. However, the testing they do is also very excellent. It's not your traditional boilerplate testing. They actually run some real world tests, which is so refreshing to see. And they're reviewing things like M.2 drives that you might be interested in purchasing, regular consumer M.2 drives. And the way that they test them is probably unlike other tests you've seen. For example, filling the drive up more than 50% to see if it slows down. And I just want to say, I'm not saying nobody does it. I'm just saying it's unusual, at least from what I've seen online, that people perform these real world tests. They are very time consuming to run. So check them out. Let me show you the channel right here. Now I've got a link to Serve the Home's YouTube channel in the video description below this video. And there's Windows Daily, our good friend Doug Betts. Gee, I wonder what I was watching before the show started. Okay, now, up here is the Serve the Home website, and this is where they've done a review of this particular motherboard if you want to learn more about it. I don't want to bore people with all the details, but if you're into the details, be sure to read the review of the Asus Pro WSWRX80E Sage SE Wi-Fi. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? And they have a 2-page review here. The reviews over at Serve the Home, they've got a lot more reviews the old school way, right, on the website than they do with videos. My guess would be that if you're trying to appeal to corporate America, I think people in corporate America are more likely going to read an article at their desk than watch a video at their desk. One, because of audio, and you don't want the people in the cubicles next to you overhearing. And two, because it might look like you're goofing off. So I'm just speculating that they probably have some more corporate related content, and that their content here may be more popular in that arena than YouTube content in the corporate world. So, but they have both areas covered, and the link for this article, if you want to read it, again, in the video description. And this is Patrick. And if we go to Twitter, let me go back to camera one here for a second. If we go to Twitter, I know they say it's called X, but you still have to go to twitter.com. And let me look for Patrick's Twitter feed. There he is. Okay. Now I can share this with you. So here you can see the video card is no longer horizontal. This silver bar that runs right along the side is the other M.2 storage for, what do you call that? The Hyper M.2 storage card. So that was vertical, this was vertical. And we've got a piece here that's sideways. Anyway, I appreciate that Patrick left it in place. Patrick was thinking maybe that video card was installed vertically here, but there's no PCIe riser. So no, it appears that video card was installed somewhere down towards the bottom. And it was just dropped. You know, there were 3 thumb screws holding this in, but it was dropped so hard and so far that not only did it dislodge, not only did it break free of the thumb screws, but it completely changed its orientation. And it was loose. So when I went to load this in the car, I really, initially wanted to keep it exactly as it is so you guys could see it, but then it wasn't worth risking more damage. So I took the glass panel off, I took the video card and the storage card out, and and pretty much tried to leave the rest of it alone so you could get a good idea of exactly how it arrived. Now, keep in mind, this was only shipping from Texas to Arizona. And what's interesting is, I shipped a computer recently to a gentleman in New Jersey. But as you can imagine, Phoenix to New Jersey is quite a distance, over 2,000 miles. And I double boxed it. I put the computer in its original, the case box, and put the case box and laid it flat with the motherboard down, so none of the parts were hanging upside down, into a larger box. And then I had to cut the box down because it didn't need to be 22 inches tall, 22 inches long, and 22 inches wide. I needed the 22 inches wide and the 22 inches long, but I only needed it about 16 inches tall. And that, cutting it down, saved me about $40. Took it from $133 to ship to $93 to ship. When it arrived 4 days later, this is FedEx Ground, and I found them to be the most reliable. The only card I added to this customer's computer was a little dinky Wi-Fi 6 card that plugged into the PCIe slot. Tightened it down. Very lightweight. It weighs literally ounces. That card had broken free from the slot, very similar to this. And this has some weight to it, right? So I kind of understand that. But how hard did they have to drop that computer to make that lightweight little dinky Wi-Fi card dislodge itself? Now, thankfully, customer caught it, plugged it back in. There's no damage to the computer, but the box was pretty beat up. So it's getting really, really dicey to ship computers these days. It feels like these shippers have no respect for the packages. My box had fragile stickers on it, for crying out loud, and it was double box. It still arrived with damage, but it was going across the United States. This was only going a few hundred miles. So imagine if this was going 2,000 miles, how it would have arrived, especially if the card broke free early in the shipping and it just bounced around for the rest of the thousands of miles it had to go. This could have been a lot worse. So what I want to do is I'm going to grab my close-up camera right here. No, I actually want to do this because there's certain areas I want to focus in on, but I might need you later, camera girl. Don't be offended that I'm taking your job right now. All right, let's turn on close-up camera. Well, that's not right. Let me go back to camera 1 for a second, figure out what's going on here with the close-up camera. I think this might have been outputting in 4K before. Don't mind me, as I'm the producer, the editor, the talent, and now the camera person. Multi-talented guy. There we go. All right, so let's take a look. This thing is fully populated with, as I mentioned, RDIMM, DDR4, ECC, error correction memory that's typically required of servers. And if you take a look, the damage here really doesn't look bad. Don't see anything cracked. Now, that doesn't mean everything's fine, but it's a good sign. And we can see where this has rubbed up against these heat sinks, but that's not going to hurt anything. And then down here, now this is what I think is kind of interesting. Whoever built this used one of the ASUS Q connectors, which is completely unnecessary. And these Q connectors, I'm not a big fan of them, but essentially it just saved the pins on the motherboard is what it did. This can be thrown away. We don't need this. We can plug these wires directly into the board right down here. So you got your bacon saved. with the connector. And again, I wouldn't even have used this. But thankfully, I'm not the one who built it, because that might have actually been a lifesaver there. I'm sure that one of the cards bounced around and smacked into that. Now, coming around to this side here, we've got these network cards, which are unlike anything I've ever seen. I'm not going to pretend like, oh yeah, I know what this is. I know it's high-end networking equipment that's outside of my wheelhouse. As we scroll up, we can see whoever built it made a slight error here in that the power cable for the fan has been trapped by the I/O shield, but you know, that's not the biggest sin in the world. Who hasn't done that among us? Probably somebody who's never built a computer, I would guess. And overall, I am fairly hopeful that the damage here is mostly visually shocking, but not electrically shocking. We'll hope. We'll hope. It's a lot of money. What do we have in there? 1200 watt EVGA Supernova. And of course, our I/O ports. Got lots and lots and lots of I/O on this board. Okay, so what do you say? By the way, we have power and reset right on the board here. Should we see if we can bring it back to life? Clear. Go back over to camera one. Camera one, there it is. And we'll set this aside for now. We might need this again later for some close-ups. Now, for those of you watching, if we encourage you to join us in our chat room. If you want to join in the chat room, you simply, where's my mouse? You simply need to subscribe to the channel. This is how we're discouraging bots and troublemakers. It's not a perfect solution, but as soon as you hit the subscribe button, you are allowed to chat. It's that easy. There's no payment that has to be made or anything like that. Now, where is my chat room? Speaking of which, I have not been paying attention. Let's see what you guys are saying. Charles Eslick said, yes, resurrect it. Well, we can try. Al-Hej Tepej says, difference between SFP and SFP plus is gigabit is SFP, plus is 10 gigabit. Yeah, like I said, we're just 10.5. I mean, we're 2.5 here. I'm not even at 5, let alone 10. I wouldn't have any use for that here. Steve Mercure said those power supply thumb screws look fairly substantial in my eyes. It took a real beating to knock those loose. Well, but the power supply is big and heavy, and those are kind of small screws for any power supply. You know, it's not like the screws get bigger the bigger the power supply gets, and that's always a concern. Samuel Kowalski says hello. Daniel Navarro says, I have hopes for that machine. Disassemble it, do a bench test. Well, I don't want to disassemble it because of the liquid cooler. That complicates things. So I think we're going to leave it right inside the case here where it's secured. And we're going to take out all the cards. I think that'll be the first place. Hook the power connector back up, and let's see with the video card back in it if she'll boot. I think that'll be our first step. What do you say? Ole Peterson says, quite a dream job for me, driving cross-country, delivering stuff for Team Carey with the service you demand. Back to the old days when there was a time to get things done right. Yes, I had a gentleman once order 2 high-end digital audio workstations from me in Hollywood. He works for, production company. And for what it was going to cost to ship them via FedEx ground, I thought, you know what? I could load these in my car, drive out to Los Angeles. And I know for a fact they won't be damaged in shipping. At the time, I had a 2-door Chevy Blazer from 1999. Bought it brand new, had it for 19 years. I got out the door about 9 in the morning. I arrived in LA. There was a 1-hour difference, so I arrived at 1 want to say it was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I drove to the gentleman's home, never met him before, delivered the 2 computers, helped him set them up, turn them on, make sure that they powered up. I stopped at McDonald's to eat and then stopped at the gas station to fuel up. And I drove home and I was back in my driveway 12 hours after I left at 9 p.m. It's not something I want to do all the time, but it was totally worth it. I enjoyed the drive. It was good to get out. When you drive between Arizona and California, there's a whole lot of nothing. It's a very boring drive. And if I'm in the right mood for it, it's very peaceful and almost meditative. So in that case, it really didn't bother me at all. And everything went smooth, you know, no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no big traffic snarls or anything like that. So had this been put in a car and driven from Texas, I'm sure it would have been just fine. It's just, you guys have to understand these folks that work for the shipping companies, they're not too motivated about handling packages with care so much as handling packages quickly. It's not like they're ever done. When they unload this box, you know, this truck full of boxes, there's another truck full of boxes behind it and another one behind it. And it'll be the same tomorrow and the day after that, the day after. It's like you're not getting anything done. That's what it can feel like. But they're also unwittingly creating more work for themselves when stuff like this happens. And the person who orders it, say from, let's say a PC builder, needs to send it back. So now they're increasing the amount of shipping they have to do, increasing the amount of work they have to do. And they're not getting paid commission. So I'm not, you know, it's not like they'd be incentivized to want to damage it. So they'd have to then pick the box back up and take it all the way back just so the company can rectify whatever the problem is. And then they can pick that box up and deliver it all the way back. And if that box or contents arrives damaged, the wheel goes around and around and around. And at some point, the only one making any money in this is the shipping company. So I reached out, again, as I mentioned, to Patrick. He responded. I'm happy to report he is exactly the same in person as he is on camera. He is a ball of energy, and it's very difficult to not be influenced by his excitement. He's excited. He's very, very motivated. And I love that quality. I love to see that in people, because all too often I see people that just, I don't know, it's like they gave up or they think they're not worthy and they don't try. So to be around somebody that's got that kind of energy, for me, oh, that's a good influence. That stuff's contagious, and that's a good kind of contagious.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here?
Yeah.
You're just here to keep me on my toes. You're not exactly a ball of energy. What are you talking about? Anyway, he's exactly the same in person. He doesn't he does, in case you're curious, he doesn't have a on-air persona. He is who he is. And you know me, I'm all about authenticity, and I was genuinely impressed that sometimes they say you don't want to meet your heroes, you know. You definitely don't want to meet me. I'll just disappoint you. Anyway, it was a real pleasure meeting him and hanging out. And given that he lives right down the street, I anticipate we'll see more of each other. I am especially interested in what he ends up doing for a studio. And maybe he'll be gracious enough to let us come in and film his studio setup once he gets a studio and gets it set up, which could be a couple of months. But in the meantime, just looking through the comments. I want to give a shout out for the Super Chat contributions, which I have completely missed here. My bad. Welcome Tim TechWiz as a new supporter of the channel. Right on. Thank you, Tim, for supporting the channel. Thank you to Douglas Burchell for a $2 super chat. He says, hello, Carey and Marlena. Alan Lindos contributes $7.77. He says, good afternoon, Carey, Marlena, and chat. This is my early fee this time. Thank you, Alan. Gregory Howard contributes $20. He says, hello, Carey. Hello, all in chat. How is Mitch enjoying Vietnam? I'm sorry I missed yesterday. I had a VA doctor's appointment. I watched last night. Here's my missed it fee. You know, I wasn't planning on showing this, but Mitch did send me an update last night. Mitch Morrison often joins me on computer builds here on the channel and has for the last few years, and has taken a vacation to Vietnam. Mitch, you got an update for us?
Well, Uncle Carey and chat, it's your Uncle Mitch. Just had lunch, and I'm going for a little walk here in Da Nang, next to the Han River. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but there's the bridge that I was talking about, the Dragon Bridge. That at 9 o'clock at night breathes fire and sprays water. That's pretty cool. And so just going for a little walk here. And tomorrow at about 11 a.m. I get on a plane from Da Nang and head back to Vietnam's capital, Ho Chi Minh, better known as Saigon. And I'll stay there, I think 4 nights, and then I fly home on Friday, October 6th, I think. Not looking forward to that flight. I go from Ho Chi Minh to Taipei, then have about a 2-hour layover, and then Taipei into Los Angeles, couple-hour layover, and then Los Angeles back to Phoenix. So it's certainly going to be a very brutal 24 hours, that's for sure. But I will tell you again, right now I'm walking in the shade and it's 89 degrees. I don't even know what the humidity is. So muggy, I'll say that. But I'll stop for a second. Now that you've seen that, do a little bit of pan here. And it's probably very noisy with the motorbikes all and such, but there you go. I'll see what else I can see and let you know. Bye. There's the Dragon Bridge, lit up at night. How's that, Uncle Carey in chat? Isn't that beautiful? It changes colors too. And so, yeah, not bad for my final night in Da Nang. So there you go. Bye.
I appreciate Mitch sending some footage from his vacation so I can pretend like I was there. I can live vicariously through Mitch's worldly travels. Thank you, Mitch, for sharing, and we'll look forward to anything else you send us while you're still there. I guess this is the last week for him there, and certainly stay safe, my friend, and hope you see some cool and amazing stuff. And I hope you film it and share it with us. Thanks for sending what you have so far. We all appreciate it. It's very cool. I had no idea that, where did he say he was? Da Nang? Anyway, I had no idea it was that lit up. Like, wow, it's really cool. Let's see. Something off on my OBS. Where is it? Turn that little button off. Okay. Sherry McFarland says, thank you, Mitch. Victor Koss says, wow, it's beautiful. Brian Burns says, yeah, that was cool. Niall Bauer says he grew up in Nam. Contribution came in from Abdul Ghaffar, which is 30 MYR. I'm not familiar with that. What is MYR, Camera Girl? Did you Google that for me? Thank you, Abdul. Thank you for contributing. Doesn't really matter. It's Malaysian. What's it called? Ringgits? Oh, I never heard of that currency. I need to get out more. Thank you again for the contribution and the support. Mats Olof Rickardson with a 100 Swedish krona. Kroner. Contribution. Thank you, Mats Olof. And Shamim Kajviras joins us as well. Both of those gentlemen are in Sweden. And apparently people say they miss Mitch. Well, he's not gone forever. He'll be back. We can't miss him if he never goes away. I kid. Of course I kid. He's a great guy. Lucky to have him as a friend. Now, I'm going to start doing a little work now because, it's been 42 minutes. Hey, when you get to work, do you start right away? Probably not. You probably go get a cup of coffee. I know how it is. Gemini the Spirit Wolf with a $5 super chat says, thanks to Carey's build videos, I've built 2 AMDs. And here's $5 for the Gatorade. Thank you. Alvin says, looks like Mitch has had a wonderful trip. I think Mitch is only about halfway through it. He's still got the rest of this week in another part of Vietnam to explore. So, safe travels. Now, when we're diagnosing a computer, and especially something that, I didn't build, it's an unknown. I don't know who built this, and I don't know the quality of their builds, but I will say that if it's somebody working at Serve the Home, I have nothing but the deepest respect for everybody there, because I know they're not just hiring anybody to do the work. So they have knowledgeable people. And well, I don't know them personally. I feel like I know Patrick, although Patrick's mostly the host of the videos, and that's why. I am assuming that this was all built correctly, except for that minor little issue of the fan cable. That is really not a big deal. It's mostly an aesthetic. It's possible that the fan cable can be cut, the insulation can be cut from the metal edge from the motherboard, either vibrating or, in this case, being shipped and having the board slam against that cable. It could cut it and short circuit things. So I'm not going to take the motherboard out of here because we have a ton of power connectors across this. And in the liquid cooler, as I mentioned, it would be impossible for me to power this up, or not impossible, but really impractical for me to power the board up on the bench. But what we are going to do is the next best thing, and that is we're going to clean everything up here, disconnect anything we absolutely don't need, take out the cards we absolutely don't need. We'll put the video card back in it because we're going to need a video card. These ThreadRipper processors don't have built-in graphics. Again, this isn't consumer grade stuff, so it's a whole different ball game. And let's just see if the board powers up. Because if the board doesn't power up, then that may justify taking the board out and taking a deeper look. On the other hand, it may be worth scrapping. It's really hard to say. If the board is damaged, it may be possible that we just get another board. This is not a cheap board, mind you, but neither are all the components that plug into it. So it would be worthwhile to acquire another board if this one is damaged, and simply move all the components onto it and mount the board in the case. There may not be much in the way of repair other than just identifying which components have gone bad and replacing those components. I am hopeful, as I mentioned, that none of the components are bad, that they just became dislodged. And the reason I say that is at no time was this ever powered up since the time it was put in a box to be shipped. If we juiced it, if we gave it power in this condition, there'd probably be a lot of short circuits happening where partially socketed cards are sitting on an angle and actually crossing over pins, causing a grounding situation, which then could lead to a domino effect of damage. So let me try and figure out how I'm going to get these things out without damaging it worse. And what's interesting is despite the condition that this was in, it's perfectly straight. And if you handed this to me, I would have no idea that this just didn't come brand new out of the box and that it was in that condition. Now, this socket up here is pretty beat up. However, even if this socket is bad, which I don't think it is, but even if it were, we could simply skip and not use that socket and use any of the other 6 identical sockets here. This card here, this was just barely sitting in there. And this tells us what this card is on that label. For those of you interested. Okay, we'll just put that in our stack of parts. And then this card, once again, maybe it's time to get the close-up camera again, so you can get an idea of these cards that appeared to be left alone are in fact not seated. They look like they're seated, but when you look at them close up, they are not in the socket. But at least they didn't break free. I mean, free in the case. They did break free of the socket. I'm going to show you with the close-up camera here. Close-up camera. There we go. So if you look, remember when I pulled out the other one, I said it wasn't fully seated? Look at this. It's barely in there. And if we scroll up at this top socket to look for damage, what I thought was a little piece was just a dust bunny. So the sockets look clean. I don't see any obvious damage to the pins inside the socket. And because of the way that this broke free, the thumb screw did its job and kept it secured. We can take that out. This, if you're interested, if I could hold the camera steady. Not really that old. This was built in December of 2020. So we're dealing with some pretty modern equipment here. But the RAM all looks like it's not been touched, which is lucky because with that video card is very, very heavy. We do need a little dusting here. Clearly, folks over at Serve the Home were using this. It wasn't just a showpiece. It wasn't a, what we call that, a server queen. And then again, just straightening this. Holy cow, it's separated here. Wow. That's just aesthetic, and that should be no big deal to just tighten the screws back down, and it should bend the metal back into shape for us. All right, let me go back over to camera 1 again. Camera 1. Here we go. Okay, put that off. Be needing that again, I suspect. Now we will have to have the video card installed. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the rest of these thumb screws because they're probably gonna get in my way when I go to plug something in. We've got a Fractal Design 7 XL. I wonder what the XL stands for. It was being rhetorical. And it is a big case, and it's heavy. Patrick saw me lift this up. He's like, you want some help with that? And I got it. What are you, Alice? That was hilarious. He doesn't know me very well, I guess. Gen X, raised in Detroit. You gotta be tough. So we've got a power adapter here with the, what do you call that power adapter that they're using on the modern graphics cards? That new, this thing here. Single power adapter to power this. This is interesting. It's got a fan there and a fan there. This alone, I could do curls with this. It's a nice little exercise. And I don't see any damage to any of the fins. I think because of the way they designed this, where it doesn't dip down, that it's completely flat on both sides, was a really smart engineering move. It's behind here. Just leave it alone, Carey. Leave it alone. It's not gonna heal if I keep picking at it. We've lost, I can see here, there's one missing right here. That's where one of the storage cards were. So these aren't necessary, but I bet you it's floating around in here somewhere. Oh, look. I found it. It's a runner. This thing wants to be free. I think it's broken. Sometimes these pop off and you can just pop them back on again. If those little pins aren't damaged, they might just... You might just be able to push it right back on. Although in my experience, once they come out, it's super easy for them to come out again. They are optional though. You don't have to use them. So, you know, we wouldn't change out a whole motherboard just for something like that. It's kind of back in. Oh yeah, there it is. Sort of. I'll take it. Good enough for government work. Isn't this unusual to see all of these by 16 PCIe slots? That's how many channels of I/O this chip has. We talk about, how come I can't have more M.2s? How come I can't have more USBs? Well, because your chip that you bought, whether it's an i3, an i5, an i7, an i9, has a certain number of channels that it can communicate. Think of it as like lanes on a freeway. And the more traffic that's on a freeway, the more it's going to back up unless you add more and more lanes to accommodate the amount of traffic you have. In much the same way, data flows, same as like water. If you can picture plumbing and how plumbing moves through the house, electricity very much moves in a very similar way, although technically maybe in the reverse direction, but I don't want to get into all the technical stuff. Just to give you a gist. And I'm going to plug this down to a socket that I think hasn't been damaged. Potentially, because I don't think any of these sockets are damaged, but I want to just be extra cautious here on our first boot. And we are 3 slots wide here, so this has to align just so. And I could use any video card, but I do need to test this card as well. So if we don't get any boot up, it could be the card. This is a very heavy card. Seem to be having trouble aligning this. Now, a normal human being would lay this case flat and work with gravity. The problem with laying it flat is you guys won't be able to see what I'm doing, and I do try my best to show as much as I can. But at some point, it just doesn't make any sense to prioritize your view over mine. And we're just in one of those scenarios right now. Oh, and I found another, another one of these right here. Just fell out. And I can see that one goes down here at the bottom. We'll set that over here for now. Again, those are optional anyways, not a big deal. If that's the worst damage we've got, then say we got out lucky. Okay. Now this does have some built-in M.2 storage, which I'm assuming is the boot media. I don't know yet. Let me see if I can align this. Boy, that does not want to align at all. Maybe I get my glasses so I can see. We got to open up the little latch. That'll help, Uncle Carey, if you don't get in your own way. Way easier to do this with the case laying flat, by the way. Why work harder than you have to? Is it cooperating? Yeah, that's what you do. You bang on a $2,000 graphics card into a multi-$1,000 motherboard. Yeah, that's a customer confidence inspiring maneuver right there, Carey. Hey, you know what? Sometimes these machines only understand brute force. Obviously, I don't recommend you use any brute force on your computer equipment. Oops. My magnet's getting weak on my driver. Let's take a look here. So the problem is it's a heavy thumb screw and a weak magnet. Those two things that are just not going to get along very well. The card is sitting a little bit like this so that the point where you secure it down is not aligning with the hole. And I just need to maybe recharge this a little bit. See if we can make that a little stronger. And put another one in here. And one more. It's completely overkill at this point because we're just testing. It's going to go right there. Okay, now we can pick this back up. Now, it's often a good idea to do what we call a shake test. And this is a very heavy computer to essentially lift over your head, shake it so that any loose parts will fall out. I see a thumb screw down here. That out. That with the rest of the thumb screws. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thumb screws. And what's going on back here? Let's take a quick look. That's out. Let's take the supply. Ooh, wow, that really was, the screw was pulling the back of the power supply away from itself. Wow, holy cow. Where's my other driver? That's going to require a hammer. Seriously, it's like taking a dent out of a car. It was bent out of shape, and the screwdriver's not giving me enough torque to tighten it back down and force it to sort of go back to its memory. But yeah, we can hit that preferably with like a rubber mallet or something and pound that back in, or we can just ignore it. It's not like it's the big deal. Now, as I mentioned, we already have a power button soldered on to the motherboard, so we don't have to hook up the front port umbilicals. These were damaged on the ASUS connector here. If my camera will focus now. There it is. Those got smashed flat. But this is an optional part. So far, everything that's broken, like the little retention tabs on the PCIe slots and this quick connector, these are optional. We don't need them. But that may be a good souvenir for later. There's my screwdriver I was trying to find a minute ago. Okay, now, and keeping in mind, we still have this fan cable back here, which I might be able to coerce out without taking the board out. It looks like it might cooperate with us. Let's see. I'm going to bring this around once again. I know it's not a great view for you guys, but it appears maybe I can use a small flat blade and just push it back the other way. If it's going to be difficult, I won't force it, but it certainly appears like it will slide right through there. But what I'm looking at when I see the cable, it doesn't appear that it's been torn. The insulation looks fine. So I'm going to leave it like that for right now because, as I mentioned, if the board isn't going to fire up, then who cares if the fan is spinning or not. But if it does fire up, well, we'll definitely correct that for sure. And we're going to blow it out. It's going to need a good dusting. But if it's dead, it can take the dust with it. That's my attitude. All right, let's spin this back this way. Looks like we have 354 people watching live. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me this Tuesday. And let's go back over here. Let's give this thing some juice and some connections. See if it's got any life left in her. Power. We definitely want to make sure the power switch on the power supply is in the off position. And it's possible there could have been damage to that. Hopefully there wasn't. But that's an easy part. If you're going to get damage to anything, let it be the power supply. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to hook it up to the network at this point. I will need a keyboard and a mouse. So we'll grab the old standard over here. Keyboard and mouse. Turn that on. Turn the mouse on. Dongle here somewhere. It also appears we have, not only do we have power buttons on the motherboard, it appears we've got a power and reset button right back here on the I/O shield. Right back here. How cool is that? All right, this is a moment of truth. We'll see if the magic smoke comes out. Computers run on magic smoke, and if you let the magic smoke out. Magic server pixie dust? I think you're watching too many old IBM commercials. Okay. Power supply switch to on. No sparks, no fire. It's a good start. And then I want to go over here to turn OBS, the input for this, which is HDMI input 1. I keep walking around both sides of this bench and not taking the mouse with me, I'm going to get a lot of exercise today. Let's go to, let's see, I'm going to turn off the close-up camera. I don't know why I left that on. HDMI input, we'll turn that on. In camera 1, I'm going to put myself Oh, let's see, we should make it big enough that you can see potentially what's happening here. And also tell if we're getting a post power on self-test. Just want to look and make sure. Oh, they violated a cardinal sin of Carey's. They've left wire ties wrapped around the fan cables and replaced with nylon zip ties. But they don't work for me, so we'll let it slide this time. Okay. We have a clear CMOS reset button, and we have a BIOS flashback button, but we do not have a power button. These are completely different buttons. Now that I'm wearing my glasses and I can seize, we're not going to be using those buttons back there. Somewhere on the front of this board, however, there is a power button. And it's, oh, look at here. That's working. And that is right up here. Uh-oh. Got no reaction. Hitting the power button, nothing's happening. Dead. And it shows signs of life, right? We've got RGB lit up here. Power button is lit up. Let me just double check that all of our power cables are seated and nothing is broken free, because that could result in the same symptom. And I'm sort of haphazardly fired this up out of anxiousness. Let me just check all of our connections on the back of the power supply. It's good. That looks good. Those look good. And we're going to check our connections on the motherboard. That one's on. That one's on. That one's on. That one's on. There's so many. And the other thing that I'll do is I will put the power switch, I think, back onto the motherboard. Set power. I don't need any of these other ones, just power. But I can't see anything. Suspect this is like most boards. No, it's consistent. I'll give it that. It's consistent. All right. Well, it's not entirely dead in the sense that we are seeing the water block RGB light up, and we are seeing the power button on the board LED come on. So it is getting some power, but it's missing a signal somewhere to complete a power on cycle. And double check all my connections here. Interesting. We're getting a flashing green light down here on the bottom of the board. Check the power connections on the bottom of the board. Those are good. All the connections across the bottom of the board look good to me. I don't see any like capacitors or any parts of the board broken off, which is a good sign. any kind of a short circuit could also result, like for example, if the power cable on this fan were in fact shorted and I just didn't see it. I don't know where that fan is being plugged in at though. We do have a fan connector down here at the bottom. Plug that one. Ones at this point are optional. Fan connector, oh, that's powering the pump here. We got a couple more fans right here. These are going to the front of the case. We can disconnect these for right now. They're optional. I'm starting to wonder if maybe that power supply has been damaged. But this isn't an everyday ordinary power supply I have laying around because this requires a lot of power connectors. Could also be a video card or the socket that we're using for the video card. So I think what I want to do, I just found something else. Wow. So the rear panel that went back here has these clips that it fits into. In this clip, I have to rotate this to show it to you. The part of the panel that's essentially the part that connects into this clip here, the piece is still in the clip. It's been like sheared off of the side panel. Let's bring this around. They just don't make a Lazy Susan big enough for a case like this. And let's see. Let me grab something here. We'll go full screen on camera one. I'm gonna hit the off switch back here. Let me get the close-up camera and what else? Maybe a pair of small needle nose pliers. Demonstrate what I've just witnessed here. And again, damage to a case, not a big deal. Cases are cheap to just buy a new case compared to everything that's in this case. Let's go back over to close-up camera. All right, so up here, this is where the side panel would lock into these clips. But that one still has the piece of the side panel broken off in. I can take it out with my. Can either look through the camera and not see what I'm doing, or I can see what I'm doing and not notice if the camera's filming it. This is a two-handed job here, folks. Just test my talent. I think I'm failing. It's out. Okay. Sure, I will find where that landed later when I walk around barefoot. So we're going to find little bits like that here and there. That's to be expected, unless you do a complete teardown If this was any other system, I probably would completely tear it down without a second thought. But given the complexity of it, oh, I just realized we have a fan controller up here too. Just noticed that. A couple fans here. I think I unplugged those. And then we've got little bit to be desired on the cable management over here, but that's okay. They're making it for themselves, and if they don't mind, that's their business. And of course, now looking back through here. So I am guessing, that the damage on the power supply is really potential, given this has really pulled the actual casing of the power supply away from itself. Not just the frame, that's no big deal. Casing of the power supply itself. And I'm wondering if that might have damaged something in the power supply. It's possible, seems unlikely, but yeah, let me go back over to camera 1 again. There we go. Where did that little piece fall down to? I pulled it out here and it probably fell straight. Bet you, yep, here it is right here. This is the piece that we've just removed. That is the piece that goes on the side panel. That's usually welded right onto the side. So we'll add this to our collection of parts. Still optional. It's an optional part. You don't have to use that. Everything I'm seeing broken so far, verified is just destroyed, is an optional part, not a required part. So I'm hopeful that that pattern will continue. But I think what I want to do at this point is I think I want to take this video card out, and I think I do want to use something smaller and lighter that can at least just take out of the equation if we can at least get the motherboard to post. So I just wanted to give it a shot with everything, bare minimum in it, because you never know. You might get lucky, and it only takes a second. Like, it's a lot of work. And it could also be a problem with that particular socket that I plugged it into. Although, again, from the naked eye, the sockets, every one of the sockets looks okay. It may be that the card's not seating down far enough because the heat sink's in the way. That's another potential. Might have to locate the card away from those heat sinks, but it doesn't really look like there's much room. When you put these giant cards, these giant GPUs, on these motherboards that have these giant heat sinks, sometimes the cards won't sit flush down into the socket. So let's just grab something a bit more reasonable. Go back here to my inventory. Let's look for something cheap and easy. Oh, here's a little something. It is old. Holy cow, is that old? This may not even be compatible. I have this pretty old, lightweight, doesn't require a power connection video card that's probably older than some of you. It may not even be compatible, but I think it is. Let's just plug it in and see what happens. Let's go down here. Let's try a different socket. No, it's not even powering on. So the good news is that card's 3090 might just be fine. It's ever causing us to not trigger a startup is happening earlier down the chain. It's not even getting to initializing the card yet. Want to double check everything. Make sure everything's fully seated again. All those connectors look good. The RAM could be deceitful in that it may look like it's in, but we want to definitely push down on each side of all 8 RAM modules. We may even want to remove some of these modules. It's dead, Jim. Don't give up. Your CMOS. We've got a CMOS problem. You know, I don't see a traditional BIOS battery on here. Oh, I see something that could be the problem. We have a significantly impacted capacitor on the motherboard. Just one, but you know what? You need them all. None of them are there for looks. Um, oh, I think a capacitor has been completely ripped off the board. Okay, I think it's time for a close-up inspection. And again, by shaking this computer, it's likely we would hear something rattling, and that may be the top of a capacitor. If that's the case, this is going to need a motherboard replacement, but that may be all it needs. It's quite possible. Let me turn this around. Let me show you what I see with the close-up camera. I better put this away somewhere where I don't knock it down, because that'll break a toe. I will show you what I see, what I believe the problem is. I believe this is the only problem, but it's significant. Let's go back over to close-up camera. All right, so right down here, You see there's a bank of capacitors and that one's really damaged right there. But if you look, you'll see two legs. And you know what was probably on those two legs? I'm matching one of these capacitors. I bet there were 4 capacitors down there originally. And this is what I would expect when a big heavy video card breaks free and it's slapping up against the motherboard, that it'll often rip the RAM out, and it will often certainly damage a regular traditional heatsink, and it'll rip capacitors because they stick up out of the board like that. Could you guys see what I'm talking about here? Are we even focused? I'm going to try and get as close as I can. Really needs to go into macro mode. I'm struggling. I got to back it out. You think? Really hard for the camera to pick up. But I think there used to be a capacitor right there. And there are 2 metal legs sticking up, which initially when I looked at them, I thought they were jumpers. But now I'm realizing I think that was a capacitor right there. So I should look and see. Do me a favor, camera girl, and tell me if this motherboard is available to purchase still. I don't know. It's a couple of years old. How much is it? It's how much? Almost $1,100. Is it available at Amazon? When can we have it? Would you order that for $1,050? Are there any returns used? Okay. Would you order that for me? We have 30-day returns, right? If it's not the problem. And then that way I have to take the motherboard out anyway, which means I can correct the fan cable. I'll be reseating all the RAM and reusing and reapplying thermal compound, reusing the liquid cooler, reapplying thermal compound. And then I don't have to dust it. It can take the dust with it when we take it out. I do believe that's the problem. And I'll bet you if I rattle this case around, one of those capacitors is floating around back there. Unless it came out earlier and we just didn't notice it. Ordered? Thank you. Camera 1. $1,100. Ooh. Yeah, but after sales tax, what is that? That's over $100 in sales tax. Now, Patrick at Serve the Home has made it clear this is not a critical machine for him. In fact, he really needs the storage drives out of it. He's got some data on there, which he has backed up. However, I want to do this as an experiment. I want the experience. If the board doesn't solve our problem and this is getting more and more expensive, Amazon has very easy returns. We have 30 days to send it back if it's not the resolution to our problem. I wouldn't make that commitment, that financial commitment, if I really thought it wasn't going to work. I've been wrong before. Obviously, someone who's handy with a soldering iron, it looks like a relatively simple problem to fix. I haven't soldered a long time, nothing like board level stuff in a long, long time. I'll do some basic stuff with soldering a couple times a year. I'm not really interested in trying to repair this board. And it's a small fraction value-wise of what the whole system's worth when you add in the power supply, the CPU, the RAM, all those storage drives, those networking cards, all the M.2 drives in it. $1,000 is nothing on a $15,000 machine. And then we still don't know if the GPU is any good or not. Now, I've never met Patrick before in real life. I think first impressions are lasting ones. And if I can fix this and that'll impress him, I think that I will resolve any potential doubt he has about if I'm offering to help him out about my capabilities. There are people in this world I do want to impress, people that I admire, people that I look up to. Sometimes, you know, you'll see me reacting strongly to people criticizing me who I don't know who they are, and I don't know why they think their criticism means something to me. Unless you're somebody I know, it's a very bullying thing to do to somebody. Walk up to a stranger and criticize them, and I don't take kindly to it. But when you're somebody that I look up to, when you're someone I respect, then I want to impress you, and it's important to me. My own personal pride. I've been building, you know, the Big Beast build for Doug Betts, who's a peer in the industry. When I work with other customers who used to be techs, we have a few folks that have retired from tech work, and they appreciate the quality of my work, and they want me to build for them since they can't build anymore due to physical limitations, arthritis, things like that, illnesses. And that means the world to me. And of course, when a stranger I don't know has nice things to say, well, that's always welcome. So just so you're aware, if you want me to accept your criticism, you need me to get to know who you are first. Otherwise, you're just being a troll. And you do see, I do care. It's very important to me that I make sure that when I'm dealing with people that are respectful, and especially people that I admire, the normal level of care I take is raised to another level because I want to impress them. I want the, you know, first experience, I want them to see what I'm capable of. Even though the computer's not important to him, that's not the point. The point is to establish respect both ways. That's my goal. Not that it's not there now, but I want it unquestionable. I want him to have no doubt about my abilities. And the best way I can establish that is through doing the work and being successful. And look, this may be beyond my ability to repair. I don't know yet. But at the very least, he's going to say I gave it a good college try. I am quite confident. I think everything's going to be fine. If that little capacitor hadn't been broken off, I think we'd have been fine. I could be wrong. These cards could be damaged. The video card could still be damaged. Sometimes the damage happens down on the circuit board where you can't see it without a microscope or, you know, tracing it with an ohm meter. But this stuff is all solid state components, and it's pretty hard to break it. So in any event, it'll be a great excuse to take it all, break it down, take it all apart. We obviously will have to take the CPU out, take the RAM out, take the M.2 drives out, place them in the exact same position on the new board. Then I will probably reseat the board back into the case in order to properly mount the water block before I test fire it. And if that's coming in Thursday, we already have a build scheduled. A gentleman named John reached out to me, would like me to build him a computer to his specifications. Nothing like this, obviously. His motherboard, we've been waiting for parts to arrive. We're just waiting on the board. board arrived today. So that means now that I have all the parts, you'll see that should be scheduled already for Friday at 1 o'clock. We'll do that build. That'll start with a motherboard prep. That may be as far as we get on Friday. And then followed up with videos of installing the board into the case and getting everything hooked up as far as you have to put a power supply in, get the motherboard mounted. I generally do these in 2 separate videos. The first video will be getting the components mounted on the board, test firing the board, updating the BIOS if the BIOS update is out there, as well as installing Windows. It'll be Windows 11 and then all the updates. And then that's usually, 1 full video. The reason I mention that is because that's going to be 2 or 3 videos to complete, as it is with any custom build. I also have Gregory Howard wants the little coffee machine computer. He said he's not in a hurry for it. And Elizabeth Dodd ordered a computer. So I have my work cut out for me right now. And I certainly appreciate everybody's patience. I don't have any employees to do the work. So everything is done by me. And I do one thing at a time. I've got some help with camera work and YouTube administration, but as far as the work, I pretty much insist on doing the work myself because I want a certain level of consistency, especially when these computers, every one of these are being shipped out across the United States. Nothing is here in Arizona except this. So at some point next week, maybe let's call it Tuesday, we'll come back to this. And I'm going to leave it as is, and we'll dismantle it on camera. If the motherboard does, in fact, arrive on Thursday, and it arrives early enough, I might be able to film this Thursday. But Amazon deliveries are inconsistent. Sometimes they're here early, sometimes they're here in the afternoon, sometimes they're here late at night. And Murphy's Law is if it's something I'm really, really wanting badly, it's going to arrive late. I don't know yet. It likely is fine. I mean, we could grab another board and plug the GPU into it. Now that you ask, let me see. I've got plenty of motherboards hanging around here. What is this? Core i9-10850K. Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea, camera girl. Not just a pretty face. Look at that. Okay, so let me make some room. Let's come around here, unplug this power cable and turn that power supply off. Could still have damage to the power supply, but I think it's just aesthetic. I don't think it's anything that a hammer can't fix. All right. Core i9-10850K. It's an MSI MPG Z490. 16 gigs of RAM, Samsung 970 Evo Plus 2 terabyte, Windows 10 Pro. These are my notes. As you can see, my chicken scratch. I should have been a doctor. You don't have to laugh that hard at that. It's not that funny. It's a little funny. I like to write in code. This is tricky. like a glove. We're gonna borrow. I'm gonna need a power supply with some meat on it. Let's see what we have back here. I don't often use parts of this caliber, but I do think I have one. I used to have one. What did I do with it? It's not where I left it. Did I use it in a build? Can't remember. All right, what do I have for power supply? 700 watts, 750. 750 is probably, yeah, I think that's going to be fine. In fact, the power supply that I use for testing is already a 750. I guess I didn't even need to leave the room. I've had it here the whole time. It's a Silverstone ET750. This is what you've been seeing me use. I pull the power supply out for testing. How convenient. It's a conspiracy. The whole thing's a setup. Planned it out this way. Eddie Casanova said he got his RTX 4090 today. Well, thank you for keeping the economy going. $20 more payments and it will be yours. I think we only have to plug in this one. I don't think we need another one. Plug keyboard and mouse. Network cable, sure, why not? Video cable, plug that in here. It's supposed to make cracking sounds? Should we run off two separate rails? We'll run it off two separate rails just because I know it won't hurt anything. Power switch. My glasses so I can see. Needs to go right there. And then finally, we need power. Not that one. Is my bench getting smaller? Okay. Now we get to the nitty-gritty. Turn off the close-up camera input. Let's put camera 1 right up here for now. On, power switch on. No fan spinning on the GPU. Don't like that. Just wondering if I have it. I think I have it fully seated in the socket. Concerned, usually the fans will spin up full speed for a second during an initial power on. And like I said, the fact that this did not have any electricity put through it when the damage occurred or after the damage occurred, it's a good thing. It's entirely possible with a graphics card of this caliber that I need the other motherboard CPU power connector on there. I'm seeing the hard drive light flashing, which implies to me that it's booting. So I'm wondering if got juice. We've got an HDMI cable. We are fully seated. Let me switch the HDMI over to the built-in video. It did boot to Windows. It's not recognizing that we have a video card plugged into it for some reason. That's new. Let's do, I think I want to go in the BIOS just to make sure I haven't disabled the, I might have it set to boot to internal graphics only, but I still should see the fan spin, so something ain't right there. Let's do start. Oops. Full screen. Start, shut down, restart. Paul says those capacitors are for sound. They won't stop the board from booting. Interesting. Well, it's a theory. Still damaged. We have for mode setting. VGA detection is on auto, so we should be okay there. Save and exit. Let me shut this back down. Check a few things here. Screen on camera 1. So what I'm concerned about is this graphics card is resting right on top of the heatsink back here. And I'm worried that it's not seated fully down, although I did hear the clasp lock it in. And we do know that it's been flopping around inside of a case, so something on the circuit board could be damaged in there. But I also know I have this other 4-pin CPU connector, which is optional, but this may be one of those options where we need it. Clip goes to the outside edge. That feels pretty secure there. I'll take this back out. It's back again. Let's try using, turn the power supply off. Try using off the same rail just to try something different. Need to put my glasses back on. I think that way. Yeah, I mean, it's not even acting like it's got power. That is not good. Definitely wishful thinking on my part. Might have a bad GPU. Or I'm missing some very basic fundamental step here. That happens from time to time. I just don't expect the, I've got it on the HDMI input, and because our HDMI cable is plugged into a graphics card, which clearly is not even identifying it as power, let me plug the HDMI cable back into the motherboard, because even the motherboard's not identifying it. This will probably take us, yeah, right back to the desktop. Oh, Samsung Magician released another new version. All right, well, we'll grab it while we're here. Why not? Okay, well, Sherry McFarland said that's another $1,375. Well, the good news is we don't necessarily need that graphics card. I'm not worried about it. As long as we can get it to boot up. Patrick has plenty of graphics cards in inventory. So if the graphics card is bad, that's not a big deal. He has plenty of those. Andy Page says, I'm from England. I just want to say so that this is some of the best PC IT video content. I love the live repairs. So much more realistic than the overproduced 20-minute videos that others do. Oh, it's great that you can, film for 3 weeks and edit it down to 30 minutes and make everybody look like, you're a genius and you didn't make any mistakes or misidentify parts. I like to keep it real because I work with customers looking over my shoulder when I do field service, and that's nerve-wracking. But after a while, you just don't care anymore. Just go, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore them and focus. It takes a lot of focus to do this work, right? Because you've got so many things, little details you've got to consider. It's very easy to let something slip by or to allow yourself to be distracted by somebody breathing down the back of your neck and asking you a ton of questions. It does sort of break the focus, the concentration. But by doing these live, it's very similar to that. And yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to, not notice things. It happens. It's not the end of the world. As a professional, the difference is that regardless of any mistakes we make, we correct it and make it right. And we chalk it up as a learning experience. If you never make mistakes, then you're not learning. Gotta go full screen so I can see this the way you guys are seeing it. Are you a resident European? No, I'm not. Accept. Next. Install. Jim says, anyone want to place a bet that UPS won't pay a claim if he makes it? Well, they'll let UPS will say it wasn't packed properly. That's the default excuse. So unless the box has got major damage and you took pictures of it, you'd be hard pressed to prove that it was packed properly, unless again you took really good photographs and everything. This computer, and I want to emphasize to you, Patrick has made it clear he can take or leave the computer. He's up to his eyeballs in workstations. Even with this motherboard, they've built several workstations with this motherboard. They have many others. And I think it's just an exercise in because we can. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no pressure for me to get this fixed anytime at all, soon or late. He does want the data drives. Those are important to him. And we don't need them to do the repair. So, but he has a lot of other things going on in his life right now, in addition to the move, that are buying us a little bit of time, I think, in that case, because he's one person and he's trying to do, as I mentioned, move his family and move his studio while still run his business. And he's got a lot going on. So this is the furthest thing from his mind right now. But for me, hey, right on the top of my priority list. I enjoy this because I don't get to see these anymore. I used to, back in the day, and that's before AMD was, they were all Intel workstations and servers, and I didn't work on them very often. And that's why I enjoy it, right? If I worked on it every day, all day, I'd probably be like rolling my eyes going, oh boy, another one, who cares? So this is fun for me. I really enjoy this, and I really appreciate Patrick letting me take a swing at it. I am sure that capacitor that's missing is probably somewhere in this case. And I suspect we're going to find it when we break everything down. I don't want to tear anything down until I have the new board so I can have it fresh in my mind where all the cables went. Got a lot of power cables. I'm sure by looking at it, I can figure it out. But I'd rather not think if I don't have to. So if it's fresh on my mind because I just pulled the cables and I'm putting a new board back in it, it'll be fresh on my mind to simply plug them back in right where they were. Now, as for the GPU, this is very bizarre because the motherboard isn't even acknowledging we have a card installed. Paul wants to know if I can try that little GPU in here instead of the big one. Yeah, I'm sure, of course. Let me power this back down. So we'll go back over to Down, back over to camera 1. And I'll hit the off switch on the power supply. Disconnect GA power. Step around. How am I going to get this released? Oh, I can reach the release. That's not. Okay, good. Good. Boy, it's heavy. All right, we're going to just set you over here. We're going to borrow you. This is an old card. GT720, is that what it is? I think one of the viewers sent this in. Can't remember who it was. I apologize. I have the memory of a potato. Doesn't take any power, which is what I like about it for testing purposes. Okay. Is that right? Is that right? Let's go back over to 1. Put that up here. Switch back on. Power button. Yeah, that's booting. Boss pops into the chat room and says hello. Welcome in, boss. Gerald Cochran wants to know if the power adapter for the video card have been damaged. It doesn't look damaged to me. It looks like it's in fine shape. If we go back full screen to camera 1, to answer your question, it's possible, but very unlikely because the connector itself is just straight through wires. And the connector doesn't appear to have any damage at all. In fact, I'd say it even looks brand new. So possible, but not probable. And I don't have any of these. I don't have any of these spare laying around. So I don't have something to swap it with, but it's unlikely. And we know this card's fan is spinning. That's booted up okay. And it posts. And that's a good diagnostic card. I keep that around specifically for diagnostics. So I'm not wielding some giant graphics card and have to run power cables into it when I'm just wanting to test the motherboard out. So that graphics card, you know, maybe DOA. It's very possible. And again, not a big deal. Not my biggest concern. We likely have no problem with the CPU, and we likely have no problem with the RAM. Even if we did have a problem with the RAM, it wouldn't be all 8 sticks, right? So I suspect we got something going on with the motherboard. And once that's resolved, I think using an alternate graphics card, we can get this thing to post. If not, it's a good experience. It's good practice. And always an educational experience, win or lose. The benefit of the education, the benefit of the experience is still priceless. It's well worth the cost of admission to get this under our belts and add it to one more one more experience of working with parts we're typically not working with. In fact, I've never worked with these specific parts before. I've never used these. I've used things like this stuff, but not this exact stuff. And I really enjoy getting something challenging, something that sort of breaks the routine and the mundane. And also, I also like to introduce you guys to the different side of things that you're not typically finding on YouTube videos from enthusiasts on the business side. Probably not many of you at home have a $15,000 computer, nor will you ever. And folks that use PCs like this usually don't have one, usually have a half dozen to several dozen, depending on what their business is. Given Patrick's line of work of reviewing equipment like this, he's got an abundance of it. When I saw his tweet, I immediately thought, oh no, this is what he needs to get up and running as just something to get him by until everything else comes in. And he made it clear that wasn't the case at all. So in that case, that takes the pressure off of me and I can enjoy it and not have to worry about trying to beat a clock, which is normally when you're working on equipment like this, it's tick tock, time is money. So that's really what makes it enjoyable is when you remove the pressure from this job, it's a fun job. But when there's constant pressure that, I need it done fast, I need it done now, drop everything you're doing, my whole world's on fire, I'm freaking out. And they're sort of, wanting you to share that sense of urgency. That's what they're paying you for. It's oftentimes very stressful. Even home consumers, their machine goes down, they have one machine, and now they can't access email, they can't talk to the family, they can't pay bills, they can't communicate with friends. Maybe they had plans and they have no alternative way to access. A lot of us will use our phones for things like that, but a lot of the older community especially don't use their phones for things like that. It's their phones for making phone calls. Besides which, I've met some folks that are retired that occupy their time by playing solitaire. And that's the main function of the computer. And without it, they just stare at the wall with nothing to do. So they're like, please get this fixed as soon as you can because it's a quality of life situation. So even on the consumer side, you can still get that level of pressure, even though there's not as much at stake. To the owner of the computer, it's the same to them. It's stressful. So in any event, I want to thank Patrick again over at Serve the Home for allowing us this opportunity to have this experience that I can share with you. We've learned a little bit today. All is not lost. Even like Elon Musk says, when SpaceX rocket blows up or whatever, it's like we got valuable data. We learn from it, and it helps us learn what not to do. In the course of today's video, I think we've established the reason that, we have at least one torn off capacitor. And so far, we've not been able to get the video card to even act alive or be acknowledged that it exists by the motherboard or by the graphics card. So I won't spend too much time on that. I'll use a known good graphics card moving forward and then retest again back in this system just to verify that maybe we're not delivering enough power or something. I suspect motherboard and the graphics card are deep. But I think, and I'm hopeful, that all the other cards are still okay. But we can't test them until we have a working platform. Now, granted, I could probably plug these cards into a system like this. I don't want to mess with it. And I think he had this set up as a RAID 0 array. So we want to put the cards back in the same slots on the same board if we want it to be able to boot. Again, he has backups of everything. It would just make his life a little easier if he didn't have to go through the backups. And he's not in a big hurry. Couldn't ask for a better client. But Greenia says, I think Planet Cryos just did a video on these NVMe expansion cards. Yeah, I think you're right. It might even be the same ones. be sure and check out Planet Crafts' video, YouTube channel rather. He's got a series of videos very similar to mine, educating you on different hardware and system builds. And he's a member of our community and has been a very long time. Show him a little love, show him a little support. Same with the folks over at Serve the Home. Fantastic content there. Shane Perkins says no $300 data recovery services. Well, he has backups. He won't need $300 data recovery. And I hope none of you ever need data recovery. As long as you make backups frequently enough, you should never need data recovery. You should be your own data recovery. But if you do need data recovery, I hope you don't go anywhere else but $300 data recovery, because likewise, you are likely going to pay too much, way too much, 2 to 3 to 4 times more than what $300 data recovery charges. I'd hate to see you spend more than you need to. They're very, very good at what they do. Highest rated data recovery company on Yelp, period, anywhere in the world. They've done over 27,000 successful data recoveries since they opened in 2007, when they named the company $300 data recovery. I don't know that he thought that through, because it's 2023 and it's still $300 data recovery. They're very transparent on the fees and the time, how long it should take, and they keep you informed every step of the way. There's no better data recovery company at any price, in my opinion and in my experience. And anybody who's used them that I've spoken to have nothing but glowing things to say. If you know somebody, because I know you have backups, right? If you know somebody that needs data recovery, don't let them get taken to the cleaners by these other data recovery centers that will charge thousands of dollars and take a long time in many cases. $300 data recovery is quite quick. Their turnaround time is impressive. And do your own research. Look at the reviews, call around, get some prices from other professional data recovery services. And I think you will come to the same conclusion that I have, which is nobody comes close in price. Nobody comes close with the speed with which they get the job done. And they have some amazing data recovery tools worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, which a few years ago I went there to their location. They didn't pay me to do it. I was just doing it for community service. Like, people need to know this company exists. And Brian Cometa, the owner, was very transparent in showing us everything and how the job is done. Most data recovery companies are quite secretive. So it's refreshing all the way around. I hope you never need data recovery services. And should you need data recovery services, I hope you don't spend too much by going somewhere else. Our thanks to Brian. Lou Greenia said Brian is super to deal with, from what I hear. Yeah, we've got about 3 interviews with Brian over the last 5 years, 6 years. I think I'm due to go back out and visit him again. He's sponsoring this channel for September and October. So if no other reason to recommend them, they support this community. And if I had a choice, if I'm a member of a community and there's a sponsor supporting the community I'm a member of, and I need services that they offer, I won't go to their competitor strictly because they're supporting my community. So I want to support them in return. But even if you subtract all that out of the equation, they're still the cheapest, they're still the fastest. And I don't think any competitor in professional data recovery services comes anywhere close in either of those categories. But again, decide for yourself, do your research. And if you know anybody that needs data recovery, be sure and recommend them, because they don't have the big marketing budgets of those large firms that charge a ton of money. I guess when you charge a ton of money, you can take some of that massive profit and put it into marketing, and around the wheel goes. You want to keep it cheap, it's mostly going to be word of mouth is how people are going to know about you. Just remember that. Shamim wants to know if I'm familiar with Lexar. They've released an NVMe drive that's 4 terabyte Gen 4 and only costs $198 on Amazon. Do I recommend Lexar? We've seen some Lexar NVMe drives installed on a couple of the mini PCs that we've reviewed. That's my only experience with them. I personally don't use them, so I can't say. I don't know if Serve the Home has done reviews on the Lexar drives. My go-to is always Samsung, Western Digital, Team, AData, and lately this company Feijing, which I'm using those drives as very inexpensive Gen 4 7300 megabyte per second standard builds, and I'm very impressed with them. They're very affordable, $190. With regards to how the Lexar performs, I don't know. I've never used one. They are a major name brand, and of course, if anybody in the chat has experience with them and you want to share your experience, that's always welcome. We always want to hear from people who've actually had hands-on versus people who just, well, I heard good things or I read things. I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in what you've personally experienced. That information is critical for us. That's what separates us from the others. I'm not interested in simulation, and I'm not interested in what's been posted online. I'm interested in what your real life experience is. And if you don't have any experience with it, the information you provide is worthless, quite frankly. I want to hear from people with experience. So if you have experience with Lexar NVMe drives, good or bad, we'd love to hear about it. You can leave it in the comment section below this video. I think it's going to wrap it up for today. We're just a little over 2 hours now, and I think we got a lot accomplished. We've established what's going on and what we're doing. And thank you to everybody for hanging out with me today. A shout out once again for all of the contributors during today's broadcast. I might have missed some, so let me just go back through one more time. Gregory Howard contributed, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there he is. Gregory Howard contributed $5. Says it did not look like that when I was there for a year. All saw were huts with no sides and roofs and people trying to kill me. Oh, I guess he was there in the Vietnam. Referring to Mitch's video. Gemini the Spirit Wolf with the $5 super chat says, thanks, Carey. Thanks again to Mats Olaf with that 100 Swedish krona contribution. Abdul Ghaffar Macau with a 30 Malaysian currency contribution. Gerardo Quintana Roo renews membership for another month, now on month 16. Right on. Thank you, Gerardo, for supporting the channel and being a part of this amazing community. PSC Computers Missouri just contributed $2. Thank you for that, my friend, as well as our good friend Buster. Peter Laycock earlier with a 10-pound contribution. Gregory Howard again with an earlier $20 contribution. Alan Lindos, Douglas Burchell, thanks you guys for your super chat. Thank you guys who are members. Welcome again to new member Tim TechWiz. Then I'll check the phone one last time here. I'll shout out some thanks to PayPal and Amazon gift cards. Let's face it, this is what's going to be paying for this motherboard. Oh, Patrick has been messaging me. He says the bottom capacitor should only be for audio. Modern high-end boards have isolated PCB segments for audio to reduce noise. Also, the board does have onboard VGA from the IPMI. I don't know what an IPMI. Do you know what an IPMI is? Thank you, Patrick, for the messages. Thank you again to Frankie B with a very, very generous Amazon gift card. Oystein joining us from Norway with also a very generous Amazon gift card. You guys are amazing. Thank you so, so much. I feel like thank you isn't even adequate. Oystein said he was looking forward to the show. Thanks for keeping us educated. This is support for your amazing community. You guys rock. Absolutely rock. Out of band management. No, that can't be right. Oh, like for support? I don't recall seeing an HDMI port or any video out on the back of this board. USB 3, 10 gig networking, USB, USB, USB. So where would there be video at? Where would the video go? It's not really important because we have that other graphics card we put in there and the machine's not even powering up. So even if there was a video port for me to plug into, it's not going to do us any good if we can't get the board to power on. Know what I'm saying? Larry Wood with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Larry. Shane Perkins and 55 Sting Dude and Terrell Cochran are all providing me the definition of IPMI as Intelligent Platform Management Interface. Clear as mud. IPMI would work through one of the NICs and the PC does not have to be on. Oh, okay. Well, I have no idea how that would work. That's going over Uncle Carey's pay grade. We're going to just follow a traditional repair. Good to know, though. All information, regardless if I can utilize it or not. Certainly educational, good to know that that's a thing. I have no doubt that there would be remote management on this stuff. I don't get into any of that, not to that level, so I'm unfamiliar. But I don't think it's critical that I know it to get this thing fixed. He says the network interface card for IPMI would be built into the motherboard. That makes sense too. Yeah. Totally makes sense. All right, I'm not even sure why he's got these added cards in there. I'm not sure how he was using it. I'm sure he wasn't doing it for kicks. I'm sure there was a reason for this. And again, it's all above my pay grade. And it's been a long, long time. Like the closest thing that I've worked on would be, similar to this, would be Ready 2. That's still, we're not using ECC RAM. We're not using a server-based motherboard. And it had some pretty interesting restrictions with power and such that Anthony Remus over at Remus Computer Solutions was kind enough to explain to me. It's like, no, Carey, those aren't optional. You have to plug those extra power connectors in or it ain't going to boot. It's not like the other consumer-based stuff. And so this obviously will have some unique restrictions too, that people who deal with this level of equipment will shake their head and probably go, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Computer's a computer. And the gist of repairing it doesn't change. We're still dealing with RAM. We're still dealing with a motherboard. We're still dealing with a CPU. They just have some different requirements and they might look a little bit different, but it's once you learn how to, get familiar with computers, you don't need to be intimidated by any computer equipment, or for that matter, any electronic item. A refrigerator isn't really that much different either, quite honestly. So, with that being said, it's been very enjoyable for me to not have all the answers, to not roll my eyes and go, this again. I enjoy experiences like this, like I said, there's no pressure. All right, let's see. Terrell says he uses it on his Dell server. Jim says the crushed capacitor could be shorting out a main power supply line. That's what I'm thinking too, even if it's on a separate circuit. In my experience, when there's a short, it can have really unpredictable results that don't necessarily make any sense. Obviously, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty and start tracing everything out with a no meter or whatever, I'm sure you could make sense of it. Not going to drill down to that level on this. Elko says he's not sure what make and model the board is. All that detail is in the video description. Always know that anytime I'm working on anything, that the parts descriptions are in the video notes below the video, where they should be. Well, thank you all again for your generosity, your support, your kindness, for hanging out with me in the chat and going through this little journey, this experience together. We can learn together, and you guys can teach me some stuff too. I always appreciative when I hear from people who have different experience than me, where it applies with what I'm doing. So I appreciate that very much. And like I said, we should get the motherboard Thursday, when and if that shows up on time. I'm not expecting to pick this up on Thursday. There's a slight chance it's possible. Friday, as I mentioned before, we have a new build where I'm going to prep the motherboard, and that's for a viewer named John. And Wednesday and Thursday, so tomorrow, Thursday, I'm not quite sure what's happening yet. I have a lot of content that I'm backed up on, but I also have some stuff behind the scenes I've got to get done. Time permitting, I will be live on those days. Best way to know for sure is to subscribe. Make sure you turn notifications on. Follow me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook. I always post ahead of time a link once I schedule the show, or I've been having Camera Girl do it for me now. And then I share it on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. And you'll also see articles I'm posting that I may not make a video about. Sometimes people email me articles. I've asked people not to do that. Most cases, 9 times out of 10, they're just sending me articles I've already published on my Twitter feed. Because they don't follow me on Twitter, they don't realize they're just parroting back everything I already said days earlier. Oh, I just wanted you to know. I didn't know if you knew. Well, if you followed me on Twitter, you would have known 2 days earlier when I shared it. The reason I mention that is because I get a lot of messages. And so messages that are just links to articles, they're just adding to noise I don't need. Most of the articles I'm seeing at the same place you're seeing them. So I appreciate the thought, but I'd rather you didn't. If you do want to reach out for any business inquiries, please do reach out. If there's a computer you're interested in buying, you need something repaired, don't hesitate to reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. If you want to chit chat, sorry, I don't have a lot of time. If you want to share links, again, I don't have a lot of time. In most cases, I just delete them, respond to them. Because despite me, or in spite of me asking you not to send them, the fact you still do bugs me a little bit. And no, it's the thoughtful intention, but it's just adding to the noise. So, I think I'm all caught up in the chat. Thanks again to all my friends in blue, all my friends in green, for being supporters and being a member of this channel. Very important to me that we have this incredible community that's far more valuable to me than any of the content I make. You guys make this an incredible community, and we hope that the community will continue to grow with other like-minded individuals who show kindness, right? The only requirement to join our community is don't be a jerk. From pretty much all of you, you'd think, why would you be a jerk? That's not a very high bar. It's very puzzling why people behave the way they do. But as long as you're not a jerk, we'd love to have you as part of the community. It costs you nothing. And all you have to do is hit the subscribe button, and you can engage with us and interact with us in the live chats. That'll wrap it up for me for today. If you're still looking for some content, be sure and check out Live Windows Training with Doug Betts, Planet Krause's video channel, Jim KJ3N here in the chat, also a member of our community, has a YouTube channel with more tech content. and of course, serve the home. Plenty of content to keep you busy until I'm live next time. I hope you'll check them out, show them a little love, give them a thumbs up, give them a subscription. And I think you'll be glad you did when you get this variety of content that's recommended by me. So in the meantime, oh, and I want to shout out Anthony Remus, who's part of Remus Computer Solutions. We've had him on the show a couple times out, and he's based out of Vegas. And Anthony builds systems like this. So that'd be a heck of a dream team if I could get Anthony and Patrick and myself together doing something on camera. And I'm really the least educated one on this level of equipment. I think Anthony and Patrick, just put those two together and watch them work. I think we could learn a lot. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. I will see you all again very, very soon. Thank you to Camera Girl for the thumbnail and her assistance with the YouTube channel. And thanks to each and every one of you. Until next time, bye for now.